She was there, screaming at Gino one week, threatening to leave, pacing across their Michigan apartment like a woman on the edge, and then suddenly, nothing. Jasmine Pineda vanished from 90-Day Fiancé mid-season like she never existed. No goodbye scene, no social media farewell, no closure. One moment she was the main character, and the next, the storyline shifted like producers hit delete on her entire arc. Fans were confused, furious, group chats went off. Reddit lit up, Instagram was full of side-eyes and speculation. TLC didn't say a word, no update, no disclaimer, no Jasmine will not be appearing in future episodes, not even a whisper of an explanation. Just total silence. So what really happened? Welcome to Sister Wives Daily. I'm Sarah, and if you've been wondering whether this was a misedit, a quiet firing, or something even messier, you're not alone. Subscribe now and hit the bell because what we're about to unravel is the part TLC didn't show, and it changes everything. And I want you to comment right now. Do you think Jasmine was cancelled, or is this part of something bigger? At first, most fans assumed it was a glitch in the storyline, a heavily edited week. Maybe she'd show up next episode, storming back in after cooling off, but then weeks passed, nothing. While Gino started getting more solo screen time, awkwardly navigating life without her, Jasmine stayed gone. Not a flashback, not a single confessional, not even a shot of her in a car driving away. Storylines that felt half-resolved were just abandoned. The most loyal Jasmine watchers felt betrayed. After everything she went through, crossing countries, exposing childhood trauma, and exploding on camera weekly, she didn't even get an exit. TLC gave more closure to people we couldn't remember than they gave to her, and that's what got people asking the big question. Did TLC cancel Jasmine behind the scenes? It wasn't just a regular character fade out. It was surgical, precision removal. If you rewatch back, yeah, and I did, frame by dramatic frame, it feels like they edited her out. Conversations jump around, confessionals feel vague. Studio reactions from other couples sidestep her. It's like she got Thanos snapped from the season. No presence, no mention. That's when fans started cobbling together theories. One of the most obvious, she got fired. Quietly, secretly. Without announcement. Which for TLC, honestly wouldn't be that surprising. This isn't the first time they've tried to sweep cast exits under the rug when things get messy enough. And while people debated about possible legal issues or contract drama, others started to dig into Jasmine's recent behavior. Was it too much? Did she cross a soft line TLC doesn't advertise, but definitely enforces? Or, and this question popped up more than you'd expect, did she walk away herself? Was this her choice? Because disappearing without a trace is also a power move, especially for someone like Jasmine, who never stays quiet when she has something to say. So why now? What made it worse is that the rest of the show just carried on. Business as usual. No break in tone. No acknowledgements. If you blinked or weren't one of her hardcore fans, you might have accepted the new story like nothing happened. But if you watched from day one, if you followed her from before the 90 days through each chaotic makeup and breakup with Gino, this silence felt personal. The fact that the storyline didn't even pretend to finish tells you this wasn't a creative decision, this was damage control. And the question nobody can shake is, damage from what? And it all points back to a studio that has mastered one thing, giving fans the illusion of reality while keeping the real stuff carefully hidden. But this time, they couldn't hide the hole. Before she vanished, everything about Jasmine's storyline felt like it was building toward a meltdown, the kind of slow-motion car crash that TLC loves. Her fights with Gino weren't even about cheating anymore, they were about control, resentment, insecurity, and this weird obsession with proving who loved who more. It was heavy, emotional, and honestly at times hard to watch. One moment she was sobbing over not feeling seen. The next, she was screaming in his face for liking someone's post from 2017. From the start of the season, Jasmine walked in like she had something to prove. And every episode pushed that more. She accused Gino of hiding money. Remember the drama about the prenup? It wasn't just a disagreement, it was an uprising. She treated it like a betrayal, and the reaction wasn't casual. It was explosive, eyes wide, pacing the room, calling him a manipulator. No detail escaped her rage. The gym payments, the debt, the fact that she was locked out of certain bank info, it all became evidence in a case only she understood. And even when she wasn't yelling, there was this hypervigilant energy. Any moment of peace felt temporary. She didn't trust Gino. She didn't trust TLC. And she barely looked like she trusted herself. On screen, she looked like someone under pressure, but oddly determined to keep the spotlight on her terms. But then something changed. In real time, on social media. She stopped posting about the show, stopped hyping episodes. At first, it just looked like burnout. But after skipping reactions to 2 new episodes, Jasmine posted a selfie. Long caption, no mention of Gino. Caption filled with new chapter energy. Something about peace, gratitude, and self-love. It felt like a goodbye in disguise. Then followers noticed something else. Gino and Jasmine unfollowed and refollowed each other at least twice. Old content got deleted, her bio shifted. It went from 90-day fiancé cast to just generic affirmations. And the post tagging TLC, gone. One day it was there. The next day, wiped. People screenshotted everything because they knew, even before it was obvious, something wasn't right. What made it messier was the silence from TLC. They didn't post spoilers. They didn't tease a breakup. Gino's solo scenes aired like Jasmine hadn't even been there. No normal breakup arc, no closure conversation. She was simply erased mid-drama. That's when the fan theories started snowballing. Some believed she got into an off-camera legal dispute. Others claimed producers were fed up with her unpredictable filming behavior. A few even tossed around visa speculation. Did she go back to Panama without telling anyone? Every theory got louder as the silence dragged on. Then came the gossip from other cast members. One posted a cryptic Instagram story. Some faves aren't gone, they're just banned zipper mouth face. Another dropped a subtle like on a comment asking, did Jasmine get herself kicked off or did she quit? No direct answers. But enough hints to keep fans obsessed. Even Angela posted something about being real on camera or don't bother showing up, which felt oddly timed, considering Angela and Jasmine hadn't had any known beef. And we all know reality stars don't post things for no reason. Every emoji is a chess move. Every vague story is a weapon. The clues weren't just adding up, they were multiplying. And while fans tried to connect the dots, TLC stayed eerily quiet, like they wanted everyone to argue without ever confirming anything. Was it damage control, a silent firing? Or was Jasmine flaming out on purpose, mid-season, to take her power back before edit could turn her into a full villain? TLC knows exactly how far is too far until someone crosses it. Jasmine's disappearance didn't happen in a vacuum. It followed a long franchise trend where the network tightens its grip the moment real drama starts to threaten their version of the story. This isn't the first time a big personality was suddenly ghosted without explanation. But this time, it feels even more pointed. Because Jasmine wasn't just a cast member, she was the show. Love her or hate her, she was the hot sauce keeping the whole season fiery. And then, with no warning, she was just gone. So why did TLC go silent, hard silent? Not even a vague, due to unforeseen circumstances, title card. In a franchise that's built on over-explaining everything, the choice to say nothing screams louder than any staged confessional. The weirdest part, TLC still had the footage. Jasmine and Gino were filming scenes that clearly weren't finished. Stories were halfway told. Conversations were chopped mid-tension, but instead of wrapping it up, the edit just skipped forward. As if we were supposed to pretend she never existed. It wasn't creative direction, it was containment. And if you followed 90-day history, this pattern isn't new. Remember Larissa? She was fired almost instantly after posting adult content online. But fans didn't know right away. TLC just stopped airing her. It took Larissa herself going live to spill the truth. And Jeffrey Paschal. He was edited out of Tell All despite being a major feature of his season. No scenes, no mentions. The man got wiped out, Thanos style, as if scrubbing his name could scrub the controversy. TLC's silence isn't accidental. It's strategy. They won't comment publicly because the moment they acknowledge the removal, it becomes their responsibility to explain. And by now, their PR playbook is locked. Stay quiet, let the internet argue, and move on fast. Which makes you wonder, what about Jasmine made her cross that invisible line? She didn't post illegal content. She wasn't arrested. So if her removal follows the same pattern, it has to mean something happened off-screen that TLC doesn't want their fingerprints on. Or they're holding something. And that's where the real theory brews. Are they hiding a bigger twist? It wouldn't be the first time they sacrificed transparency in service of a future reveal. Before the 90 days pulled that with Big Ed and Rose. They edited timelines out of order, forgot to mention why some footage was missing, only to blast it back in with an exclusive segment later. Fans were mad but they watched. So maybe, just maybe Jasmine's disappearance isn't the end of her, but a setup for something they think will hit harder if we don't see it coming. A sudden reunion, a secret solo interview, a visa reversal, or Gino revealing he made a move that changed everything. And let's not ignore the obvious PR risk. Jasmine was unpredictable, emotionally raw, unfiltered in confessionals, not always stable in how she handled conflict. Super intense one moment, painfully repressed the next. She wasn't easy to manage, and TLC loves drama, but only the kind they can control. That's always been the rule. The moment real people push too far and mess with the story machine, TLC cuts the mic. Or in Jasmine's case, erases the camera entirely. The question now, what are they hiding behind the silence, and who's really calling the shots? Jasmine didn't just bring drama, she became the drama. Episode after episode, viewers went from watching her to watching for her, just to see when she'd snap. And when she did, it wasn't small. It was big, raw, and all-consuming. Her fights with Gino stopped feeling like normal reality TV flair. They felt like live wires, unfiltered, unpredictable, and sometimes, just plain uncomfortable to watch. At first, it was chaotic in the way fans expect. The over-the-top jealousy, the accusations about strip clubs, the bags packed and unpacked in the same fight, but then it started to shift. Jasmine's breakdowns became more intense, more personal. One minute she was threatening to leave over a text Gino received at work. The next, she was sobbing about being unloved and abandoned. Her emotions weren't scripted, nobody could fake that level of loss of control. But maybe that's exactly the problem. By the midpoint of the season, we weren't watching a couple in conflict, we were watching a woman unravel on camera, with cameras that never seemed to turn off. There was one moment that hit differently. Jasmine accusing Gino of being emotionally abusive because he wouldn't react to her jealousy the right way. It wasn't worded with care. It didn't lead to some healing talk. It was rage. Screamed loud, in public, with no filter. The line between storyline and mental health blurred in ways even fans started to question. Instagram threads filled with comments like, "This is getting hard to watch," and "Why is TLC airing this without intervening?" That's when things moved from entertainment to ethical discomfort. This didn't feel like a show anymore, it felt like surveillance. And some started insisting that TLC had a duty to step in, not to protect the audience, but to protect Jasmine from herself. And here's where things get real. TLC isn't new to dealing with cast members who spiral on camera. There's a difference between filming drama and filming someone in distress. And viewers weren't laughing anymore. The vibe had shifted. Jokes were replaced with concern. Or worse, comparisons to past cast members whose stories didn't end well. Did Jasmine cross an invisible boundary? Not legally, probably, but in tone, in behavior. She might have pushed the show's format into territory TLC didn't want. Behind the scenes, producers are trained to let cast self-destruct, but only to a point. Once it starts triggering social backlash, especially in today's culture around mental health and exploitation, network decision-makers step in. TLC doesn't explain these shifts, they just adjust, quietly, in the edit room. Which might explain the hard cut. And it didn't help that Jasmine refused to be predictable. She flipped between rage and neediness so fast it left viewers whiplashed. She rebuilt tension in every scene she entered. There was no pattern the show could build around. That kind of chaos becomes a liability when a network's trying to pace a clean arc. And when fans stop rooting for closure and start begging for someone to pull the plug, that's a red flag for producers. It stopped being about narrative and started being about risk. Viewer trust, brand safety, and Jasmine, no matter how magnetic she was, simply wasn't controllable anymore. So maybe it wasn't about being the villain. Maybe she wasn't too much in an entertainment sense. Maybe she was just too real for a show that pretends to be. But what if we're all wrong? What if Jasmine wasn't cancelled, but chose to disappear? It's easy to jump to drama, it's what the show trains us to expect. But sometimes, what happens off-screen is more human than scandalous. And while the silence from TLC feels shady, there's always the possibility this was her choice, not some secret fallout cooked up in a backroom. Jasmine has never been the kind of woman to hold back. But even the most open book has a breaking point. And this season, she looked emotionally exhausted. From the visa stress, to feeling isolated in a foreign country, to clashing constantly with Gino about finances, family, loyalty, it was a storm she couldn't get out of. Maybe the cameras became too heavy. Maybe something broke behind the scenes that we'll never see. Not out of censorship, but compassion. Disappearing from reality TV isn't always about scandal. It can be about safety. About mental health. About finally drawing a line the network won't draw for you. Because when your worst moments are edited into primetime chaos, the pressure not to crack becomes worse than whatever you were already dealing with. What if Jasmine saw herself on playback and said, "Enough"? We've seen other cast members pull out quietly before. Some get overwhelmed by fan backlash. Others run into legal complications, visas, disputes, contracts. Jasmine moved countries for this relationship. She left her sons in Panama. She carried guilt, loneliness, anger, and then had to perform all of that, loudly for strangers. Maybe one day she woke up and decided showing America her next breakdown wasn't worth it anymore. And then there are the legal layers nobody talks about. Behind every dramatic scene is a thick non-disclosure agreement. If something happened between filming and the season airing, something medical, legal, financial, cast members are often barred from posting or explaining. All they can do is go quiet. And fans interpret that silence as guilt or being cut when it could just be paperwork. Some viewers pointed out that Jasmine's Instagram shifted overnight. that she removed references to the franchise, that she's been quieter but not gone, that she still posts selfies but not anything that violates contract terms. That's not someone trying to disappear completely, that's someone living between obligations. Someone waiting without saying why. And while TLC's silence looks bad, what if for once they were doing the right thing? They're a network, sure, but they've been burned before. When cast members collapse emotionally and it makes headlines, they take the hit. So maybe this time, they made a call, run the footage quietly, don't address the exit, and let her regroup without making it worse. No press. No Instagram statement. No interview package. Nothing that forces her to relive what already felt unbearable. The cost, storytelling. We, the audience, lost the arc, the closure, the update. We lost the parts that make us feel like the show has structure, but maybe that was the trade. Protect the person, sacrifice the plot. So yes, it's strange. Yes, fans deserve answers. But maybe the most honest reason we don't have any is because she needed the story to end before the damage got worse. And maybe, just maybe, this silence was the first real boundary Jasmine ever got to draw for herself. Jasmine may not be speaking with words, but her Instagram is telling a story, and fans are treating it like a crime scene. Every unfollow, every deleted caption, every moody selfie, it all feels coded. Like she's dropping breadcrumbs while staying just within the lines of whatever NDA she's still under. One minute her bio says 90-day fiancé. The next, it's gone. Then it's back briefly, only to vanish again the following day. Is that a contract hint or a subtle middle finger to TLC? No one knows for sure, but it immediately set off alarms in the fanbase. She began removing older posts related to Gino. Not all at once in some dramatic sweep, but one or two here and there. Quietly, calculated. The kind of digital scrubbing people do before a reset, not just a relationship break. Fans caught it quickly. Screenshots were posted in fan groups, everything analyzed. What did it mean that her anniversary post was now gone? Why delete a photo from Panama only tied to her family? Then came the story reposts. Jasmine started engaging with fan pages again, but only the ones calling out TLC for editing bias. One post said, "They're trying to silence the strong ones, but real fans know the truth." Jasmine liked it, then unliked it, then liked it again 2 hours later. If that's not a cry for a reaction, what is? Even weirder, she refollowed Gino and then unfollowed him the same day, multiple times. It looked accidental, but it happened more than once. A pattern. Almost like she was trying to make headlines without saying anything that would breach whatever show rules still have her under gag order. And everyone noticed. The back and forth rhythm of her activity started to feel like a silent battle, a passive-aggressive standoff with producers. She can't speak directly, she can't explain why she's not on air, but she's clearly not done playing the game. On one Insta story, she posted a crying selfie. No caption, just her face empty, raw, and a Lana Del Rey song playing low in the background. It wasn't a vibe she usually shares. It felt like a warning shot. A portrait of someone who feels betrayed but trapped. And Jasmine's too smart for that to be random. Some fans think she's playing the long game, that she knows silence builds curiosity and curiosity drives demand. Maybe this is the real power move. Say nothing, and let everyone lose their minds wondering why. Others believe she's emotionally spiraling and can't control how her social media looks right now. That the deletes and reposts and cryptic likes aren't strategy. They're signs that she can't decide whether to protect her image or burn the whole thing down. Then there's the wildcard theory. What if TLC told her to drop clues? What if this is all manufactured suspense? A social media breadcrumb trail meant to keep viewers guessing long after the episode cuts to black. Because here's the catch, nothing Jasmine has posted breaks the contract. Not technically. But every move feels like commentary. Deliberately vague, painfully honest, carefully incomplete. And in a franchise where cast members usually go radio silent, Jasmine is doing the opposite. She's talking without saying a word, and somehow that's making louder noise than TLC ever expected. So, is she dodging the truth, or is she daring us to look harder? Something strange happened right after Jasmine vanished. Gino started getting soft edits. The same Gino who used to be the butt of every meme, the awkward punchline, the guy who couldn't defend himself in arguments, suddenly became the calm center of the storm. It was subtle at first, a slower, more sympathetic zoom, a thoughtful pause in mid-confession, lines delivered with intentional quiet. TLC wasn't just showing Gino, they were polishing him, and fans noticed. While Jasmine's scenes had always been loud and volatile, it was the contrast that became glaring once she disappeared. Suddenly, Gino was the one reflecting. Gino was the one trying to make peace. The one who allegedly opened up emotionally while dealing with a complicated partner. Words like trying his best and emotionally invested started floating into the edit. It felt curated, constructed, intentional. Which raises the question, Was Jasmine removed or rewritten out? Because in reality TV editing, the hero and villain roles are never static. They shift based on what producers want you to feel in the moment. And when a character becomes difficult to frame or manage, it's easier to prop up the counterpart and phase the other one down, which is what this season looks like it's doing with Gino. Before her disappearance, the tension had escalated to a point where fans weren't even rooting for them to work things out anymore. They were rooting for someone, anyone, to walk away. Jasmine's spirals were dominating the plot, and Gino was either frozen or fumbling through them. Then flash forward a few weeks later, and he's getting airtime alone, exploring his family dynamic, reacting thoughtfully, practically being reintroduced as a solo character. Did TLC decide Jasmine couldn't carry the story anymore? Or did they realize Gino was more brand safe for the second half? Because what producers fear most isn't rage, it's unpredictability. And Jasmine was unpredictable this season. Uncontained, extremely hard to steer in confessionals, the emotional beats didn't land cleanly. Her episodes felt messy, compelling, yes, but unstable. Gino, meanwhile, obediently stayed in his lane. He played the part. And maybe, behind the scenes, that earned him a pass. There's also speculation that production didn't want to risk creating sympathy for Jasmine as things spiraled too far. It's one thing to show high emotion, it's another to show someone so deeply unraveling that viewers feel uncomfortable watching. That flips the effect. Suddenly, she's not a villain, she's a victim of the medium. And when that happens, the camera looks complicit. So if you're TLC, and you're realizing that Gino is staying true to his contract, showing up sober, and giving usable footage, and you're struggling to get Jasmine to do the same, who do you pivot to? Exactly. Some fans believe this shift happened fast. Mid-edit, that producers were slicing and stitching up episodes as Jasmine's fate behind the scenes unfolded, which would explain the sudden structure change. Scenes that don't reference her anymore. Conversations that feel oddly clipped. Because whether or not she walked away or was pushed out, TLC's decision to spotlight Gino right after doesn't feel like coincidence. And if they are rewriting the story midstream, one thing's clear. This isn't just about Jasmine disappearing, it's about who benefits from her absence. And as her airtime disappeared, his credibility magically started to grow. Reality TV comes with more strings than most cast members realize, and for someone like Jasmine, those strings might have wrapped a little too tight. When you sign up for 90 Day Fiancé, you're not just agreeing to be filmed. You're signing over control. Over your image, your timeline, your silence. Non-disclosure agreements, or NDAs, are baked into every inch of filming. And while we're not here to get technical, the basic idea is this. If you cross a line, TLC has tools to erase you fast and without warning. So what could Jasmine have done? Maybe nothing dramatic on the outside, but something contract-breaking behind the scenes. Most of the cast commits to multi-month filming windows. Then comes the editing process, then release windows, then the reunions, and most importantly, radio silence. During that window, cast members are heavily restricted. They're not allowed to spoil storylines, bash the network, share unapproved content, or present themselves publicly in ways that contradict their on-screen story. And Jasmine, as we've seen, is not exactly known for staying silent. Before her disappearance, she was posting cryptic things, long-winded, "I deserve better" captions, self-love quotes clearly aimed at Gino, photos with comments that hinted more than revealed. Not enough to break rules technically, but enough to get flagged. And if she got warned privately and didn't pull back, producers may have decided she was too big of a risk to keep running. TLC has shown before that you don't have to be arrested to get cut. You just have to make trouble for production. If you suddenly become unpredictable or start treating your platform as more important than the show, they move fast. They take you out of trailers. They mute your name in the storyline. They stop building around your narrative because they don't want to reward a liability. And they won't tell the public why. That's what's so frustrating for fans. When these contracts get enforced hard, it looks like erasure. But from the network side, it's cleanup. Quiet action replacing public drama. The fewer arms they wave, the smaller the mess becomes. Let's say Jasmine leaked behind-the-scenes info to mutuals, or trashed producers off camera, or refused to show up for pickup scenes, or even tried to pitch herself to other platforms, YouTube, Patreon. In the eyes of production, that's enough. You don't have to go public, you just have to break trust. And in a network known for controlling chaos, losing confidence in a cast member is the last straw. There's also financial impact. If you violate terms, TLC doesn't just stop airing you, they might withhold pay for unaired content. They might block any future spin-offs, even prevent you from participating in tell-all episodes. Suddenly, all those long nights filming breakdowns are gone. You gave the footage, but never earned the spotlight. And Jasmine's silence isn't necessarily a choice right now. If she did break terms, she's likely under warning, or actively threatened with breach consequences if she says too much, which makes the whole situation more tense. Because the only people who know what really happened can't talk, and the people who want to know are watching Gino take her screen time. This isn't just about a plotline being cut, it's about a backstage power move. Someone said no, someone else said goodbye, and then TLC hit pause before the audience even noticed. But hiding the reason only made fans more desperate to find one. TLC might have expected a quiet fade out. Maybe they hoped if they pulled Jasmine without saying a word, the season would move on and fans would adjust. But what they didn't count on was how loud the silence would become. The moment Jasmine disappeared, the internet filled that space and didn't hold back. Reddit exploded with threads titled, "Where's Jasmine? And did TLC just ghost her mid-season?" Commenters swapped screenshots and theories like detectives. Theories got pinned, fights broke out. Casual fans turned obsessive. Because even if you didn't like Jasmine, you noticed her. Love her or hate her, she was the engine of the season, and her absence created a massive hole the storyline never recovered from. Twitter, or X, depending who you ask, wasn't any quieter. Viewers started tagging TLC directly, demanding answers. Some tweets accused the network of mistreatment, others questioned why Gino got solo confessionals while Jasmine was totally cut from the narrative. One tweet with thousands of likes read, "Say what you want, but at least Jasmine was honest. Y'all edited her off like she never existed." YouTube wasn't far behind either. Reaction channels began posting, "What happened to Jasmine?" breakdowns. Fans combed through episode edits for signs of missing footage or choppy transitions. Clips analyzing her last on-screen scene started trending. She went from being a controversial reality star to a full-on mystery storyline, and viewers hate when they're shut out of the resolution. The irony? TLC created more drama by removing her than if they had just let her stay. And now, people are asking the real question, did they underestimate how invested fans were in Jasmine's chaos? Yes, she was messy, but she was consistent. She had history with the audience. We'd watched her spiral, scream, apologize, reconnect, and then do it all over again. People didn't tune in because her relationship was healthy. They tuned in because it was emotionally raw and impossible to ignore. Take that away, and viewers are left with half scenes, dead air, and a version of Gino that barely holds screen presence without her energy banging off the walls. And that's the bigger risk, ratings. TLC has always known how to walk the line between problematic and provocative, but Jasmine's removal shifted the tone. Without her, the season slowed down, it lost its tension. There's no longer that sense of what will happen next, and fans feel it. Online forums are already calling this the season that broke mid-run. Worse, new watchers who didn't follow Jasmine's earlier storylines don't understand why the current plot feels hollow. There are context gaps, emotional plotlines with no payoff, questions that seem abandoned in favor of shallow filler, and TLC hasn't said a word. For a franchise built on capitalizing off messy emotional arcs, this quiet censorship feels off-brand. It's creating cracks in the audience connection, because it trains fans to feel invested and punishes them for it. People spent years watching Jasmine navigate cross-continental love, custody guilt, and personal insecurity. Then were given nothing, no update, no resolution, and fans don't forget that kind of erasure. They obsess over it. They dig, they post, they protest with playlists and viewing boycotts and reaction videos that get more views than the actual episodes. If TLC thought this would blow over, they've seriously misjudged the loyalty Jasmine earned even when she was at her worst. And now, all eyes are on what comes next because this doesn't feel over. The way Jasmine disappeared, the silence that followed, the surge of fan chaos and half-confirmed clues, it's too messy, too intentional to be the end. It feels less like a hard stop and more like an intermission. So was it part of a bigger plan? Shows like 90 Day Fiancé don't just delete major players mid-season unless there's a bigger play in motion or a serious threat behind the curtain. But Jasmine's absence didn't clean up the season. It hollowed it out. It left unfinished business everywhere. TLC usually wraps its stories, even the ugly ones, with some kind of bow even if it's bitter. This wasn't wrapped. This was buried half alive, which sparked something bigger. Was this by design? If producers intentionally created mystery, then the payoff has to be coming. Maybe a surprise return, maybe a one-off episode, maybe even a spin-off. Because if Jasmine wasn't deleted, but instead parked, then her comeback would be nuclear. And the show's done it before. Other cast members have gone dark and then returned with an emotional shock edit, a second chance, or a contract twist. Think of how they pulled Colt into narrative after narrative, or how Angela seems to keep reappearing whenever ratings dip. The franchise keeps its most chaotic stars on retainer. If that's the pattern, Jasmine might already be booked for something else. Fans have speculated she could resurface on a completely different platform. Imagine Jasmine on Single Life, a fresh start without Gino, where her over-the-top energy now becomes the entire draw instead of half the problem. Or maybe she pivots to social media full-time, building her own audience through raw emotional content, something even TLC can't edit. And then there's the reunion. That's where every theory lands. Could she show up in the last 10 minutes, silent for most of the show, and then explode into the final moment with something massive? Proof, accusations, a fresh contract. Reality TV thrives on fake-out exits. What better way to dominate the entire tell-all than by removing her early, letting the internet boil, and then throwing her back into the fire just as things cool? The silence, if weaponized, becomes a tool of suspense. But there's also the quieter theory. Maybe she really is done. Maybe after everything, Jasmine finally saw what this show takes from people like her, women who cry too loud, feel too much, and don't deliver their pain in digestible pieces. Maybe the cameras were never going to give her peace. Maybe this was the real win, walking away while there was still some of herself left. That's what makes this ending weirdly haunting. Because whether she comes back bigger than ever or fades out for good, Jasmine's disappearance cracked something in the edit. It reminded us that these aren't just characters. They're real people trapped in fake timelines, and sometimes they don't wait for the cut. So what happens now? Does she rise up in a new show, rebranded and refired, or stay withdrawn, letting viewers wonder forever where it broke? Either way, TLC can't erase the fact that Jasmine made this season feel like something, that her chaos had weight, even when it made no sense. Maybe that's why they had to cut her, or maybe it's exactly why she'll be back.